Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
She might have a lawsuit too.
Singer Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Diddy Combs hit Cassie Ventura with a skillet full of eggs.
You got to go back to the drugs and the alcohol, man. The drugs and the alcohol, man. And those things that make you...
What does it take to silence a courtroom? Dawn Richard's testimony about Cassie's alleged abuse by Diddy left everyone speechless. Get ready for the bombshell revelations that pulled the curtain back on an unimaginable reality.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist.
Dawn Richard's testimony hit the courtroom like a lightning bolt. A former member of Danity Kane, the girl group created under Diddy's management. Dawn was more than just a former collaborator. She was a close observer of the inner workings of Diddy's world. This made her testimony one of the most critical pieces in the trial's first week. People expected that she might have a few insight to share, but the details she revealed left the room frozen in shock. What exactly did she say about Cassie's alleged abuse that silenced an entire courtroom? Dawn's connection to both Diddy and Cassie wasn't just professional. It was deeply personal. As part of Danny Kane, she worked closely with Diddy, meaning she interacted with him and the people in his orbit on a daily basis. Cassie, of course, was his longtime girlfriend, a relationship that many thought looked glamorous from the outside, but Dawn's testimony painted a much darker picture of what really went on behind closed doors. Her words added context to the years of whispers about abuse that had hovered around Diddy and Cassie's relationship. When it was Dawn's turn to take the stand, the courtroom's energy shifted immediately. She described moments where she allegedly witnessed Diddy's angry outbursts, leaving those around him walking on eggshells. According to her, these outbursts didn't spare Cassie, who often bore the brunt of his fury. Dawn was clear that her description wasn't based on rumors, but on things she personally experienced. She was there watching it all unfold. Dawn spoke in detail about one specific incident that left the room in stunned silence without revealing any quotes. She described an argument where Diddy reportedly screamed at Cassie to the point where her physical reaction betrayed the emotional toll his words had taken. It wasn't just a yelling, though it was a menacing tone, and the way Diddy allegedly manipulated every situation so that Cassie would feel powerless to defend herself. For Dawn, this moment became etched in her memory, and she described it as one of several instances where Cassie seemed trapped under Diddy's control. The weight of Dawn's testimony didn't just come from the event she described, but from the way it was delivered. Her voice reportedly carried traces of anger and sadness, as though she had been waiting for years to finally speak out. Legal analysts in the room reportedly said that first-hand accounts like Hayes can be a powerful tool in a trial. It's one thing to hear allegations in a general sense, but it's another thing entirely to have a witness recount specific events they observed. For the jury, this sort of testimony brings the allegations to life in a way that's hard to ignore. And Diddy's reaction, that was another story entirely. As Dawn spoke, reporters in the courtroom described his body language as defensive, almost as though he wasn't prepared for her to be so direct. He shifted in his seat, his expression darkened, and he reportedly leaned over to his legal team during her testimony. While he didn't interrupt, it was clear he wasn't happy with the picture Dawn was painting, and for good reason. Her words weren't just undermining his carefully curated public image, they were adding weight to Cassie's claims in a way that couldn't be ignored. But the moment that really landed with the jury and the public watching from the outside was when Dawn reportedly said she believed Cassie spent most of her time just trying to survive. Those 5 words hit like a hammer, summing Up years of alleged emotional and physical abuse in a way that left many in the courtroom visibly shaken. It wasn't just about the arguments or the alleged control Diddy exercised. It was about how Cassie had apparently lived in a constant state of fear and isolation with no clear way out. Dawn's testimony wasn't just another piece of evidence. It became a turning point in the trial, creating a ripple effect that would inevitably influence how the jury viewed Diddy moving forward. Her account tied into the larger narrative being built around the alleged abuse, adding another layer to the case that the defense will undoubtedly struggle to counter. As the first week of the trial came to a close, Dawn's words hung in the air. They weren't just about her memories, they were about shining a light on a situation that had been hidden for far too long. And with more witnesses expected to testify in the coming days, including others close to Cassie and Diddy, the courtroom is bracing for more revelations. What's next for this trial, only time will tell, but for now, Dawn's bombshell testimony has set the stage for what could be a defining case in the world of celebrity justice.
And she's saying that she witnessed a gangbang, which actually we know it as called a train. And she worked on the album, The Train to Paris. And like I heard one of the YouTube, it could be Tistel, say that we didn't know what the train to Paris meant. But now we know that the train to Paris was a train in Scotland. It wasn't a train in Paris, it was a train in Scotland. Every time I have a witness doing something is when two guys and two girls will go in the room. And that was just regular. And however they did it, whatever they did, that was their business. But he gotten bold enough, whereas that he would do that in front of Dawn and other people at a poolside in Scotland. You sure it was Scotland, man?
Kennedy Kane alum Don Richard, who began working with Sean Diddy Combs while competing on his show Making the Band in 2004, took the stand after Cassie wrapped her testimony May 16th. Richard joined Combs' group Diddy Dirty Money after Danity Kane disbanded. While on the stand, she told jurors that she saw Combs hit Ventura with a skillet full of eggs at his Los Angeles home in 2009. Richard testified per NBC News. He came downstairs asking where his phone was, and he threw her to the ground. He attempted to kick her. She fell to the ground and went into the fetal position, literally trying to hide her head. In addition to striking Ventura with the skillet, Richard said Combs put his arm around the singer's neck and took her upstairs before she heard glass breaking. Richard added, "I was scared for her. I was scared to do."
The courtroom drama hit another level when a shocking piece of evidence was introduced, an audio recording featuring Cassie. On the tape, she's reportedly heard threatening a Diddy associate who allegedly had video footage of a heated confrontation. The courtroom atmosphere shifted immediately. What could be so explosive that even the jurors were left visibly stunned? That recording marked a turning point in the trial. It didn't just offer a new glimpse into the toxic web of Diddy and Cassie's relationship. It exposed the emotional chaos both seemed to be caught in the recording played out for the courtroom, and the words carried raw emotion that no one could ignore. In it, Cassie's tone was desperate, furious, and unrelenting. Legal insiders described her words as a reflection of someone worn down by years of conflict and pain. Her threats seemed more like the breaking point of someone who felt trapped rather than premeditation. It was that emotional rawness that gripped the room. Here's what we know about the tape. Cassie's voice is heard addressing a man believed to be a close Diddy associate. This man allegedly had recorded proof of a violent altercation between Cassie and Diddy. Cassie's voice quivers between rage and determination as she demands answers and makes threats to protect herself. The recording shows just how far their issues extended, not only affecting their personal dynamic, but pulling in others who work for Diddy. And that level of emotional instability, especially the fear of being exposed, was hard for jurors and onlookers alike to ignore. But why would Cassie be on such a precarious edge, threatening someone connected to Diddy? Experts following the trial suggested that moments like these aren't uncommon in abusive relationships. Years of manipulation, isolation, and emotional instability take a toll. People in these situations often reach their limit, manifesting behavior that might seem irrational to outsiders, but in reality is born out of relentless mental and emotional strain. One legal analyst even weighed in, saying the tape added layers of complexity to the ongoing narrative. It didn't just back up claims of an unhealthy, abusive relationship. It also suggested that Cassie was living in constant fight or flight mode, where her emotional responses became more extreme over time. The tape wasn't a simple moment of Cassie standing up for herself. It also showed the toll reportedly being controlled, hurt, and boxed into a volatile relationship for years. You could almost hear that desperation in her voice. This wasn't about revenge. It seemed like survival for the jury. The audio presented a complicated picture. It amplified the severity of the allegations against Diddy while also forcing them to unpack Cassie's emotional state. Was a recording definitive proof of her struggles? Maybe not on its own, but when paired with Dawn Richard's testimony and other mounting accounts, it painted an even clearer portrait of a toxic cycle few could fathom. As Impactful as a tape was it left other questions for the courtroom to consider. Diddy's legal team is expected to argue that Cassie's emotional outburst discredits her claims, painting a picture of instability. To see our doubt around her testimony, this strategy isn't surprising. Defense teams often resort to tactics like this when representing high-profile clients. And let's be clear, this won't just stretch into Cassie's words or action from the recording. Rumors say more of her past from her mental health to prior personal interactions will soon be scrutinized by the defense. But here's the thing, the tape isn't just about one moment of anger, it's about the dynamics behind it. For years, Diddy has been portrayed as an untouchable figure in the music industry, while Cassie has been cast as a girlfriend, her role often reduced to silence or submission in the public. As that tape cracks that facade wide open, the courtroom wasn't just hearing Cassie's anger. They were hearing her struggle to reclaim power in a relationship where it seemed like she often had none. What comes next could upend everything. Will the defense lean harder into discrediting Cassie, or will more testimony, tapes, or evidence further dig into the realities of their relationship? One thing certain, the jury is now dealing with not just a trial, but a deeply tangled story of power, control, and emotional fallout. And the next move could change everything.
She's gonna have to bring up into the lawsuit that Diddy stopped the way that she was working and how she could work by the fact that he would change, like you just said. What she would do, bro, he would turn off her mic and don't let her sing songs or don't let her do certain things, a part of the band. When he do her sexual advancements. I don't know what to say about that, brother. All I can say is that, you know, all of it sounds like using his power. He's using his power to get at people that works for him. And when you do that, when they bring you to court, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose if they can prove it.
One text message, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
We know now that she called herself Cece for Cassie Combs. We know now that she wanted to have a child with him.
Jurors also heard an audio recording where Cassie could be heard threatening to kill a Diddy associate who had video of one of her freak-offs with Diddy.
The jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised.
Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy.
I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit her.